So because of how procrastination works with my brain, I'm going to make some writing tip videos instead of actually participating in National Write a Novel Month myself. Because that totally makes sense. Let's start with the basics. How to avoid making characters for your story that fall into negative racial stereotypes. Because being racist is bad. Minorities in your story shouldn't all be antagonists and going up against the beautiful white European protagonists. This is extremely racist, but your minorities shouldn't be shills or spokespersons for the local regime or existing only to serve the white characters in some way either. That's also bad. They should be able to stand on their own, live to the end of the story, and have their own wants and dreams. And if you hear anything in the background, it's my pet rabbit. He's decided now is the time to be noisy. For example, say you have an older married couple who are both minorities. They're the same ethnic group as your antagonist and live to the end of the book. Maybe they're gay, maybe they're lesbians, who knows. They have to exist, be full, three-dimensional characters, and not props for a political agenda. Though if they are a same-sex, happily married couple who lives to the end of the book, I'll give you brownie points for that. Maybe their child is one of the protagonists going up against the antagonist. Maybe they get cookies in the mail from their moms and letters telling them to write home more and asking if they need new socks. Never underestimate how important socks are. So you have your minority characters on both sides of the conflict have the same skin tone range, because having the darkest person in the story be the antagonist leans too much toward a dark skin equal bad racist trope. I also want to remind people watching this video to stay away from yellow skin tones for your characters based on different parts of Asia. On that note, stay away from talking about chakras too. Before that got bastardized by the rise of New Age paganism, I'm pretty sure it's something exclusive to Hinduism, but please do not quote me on that. I don't think it's very respectful to take something from a religion over a billion people follow, then put it into a creative work without fully understanding it. There's also a bit of racism against Asians with the wise guru and chakra tropes, but as a basic white girl, I don't want to talk about it anymore because I don't know all the details about the issues and it isn't my thing that personally affects me. And Thumper agrees. I just know Eastern religions and people get called exotic and fetishized fairly often. That in this video is surface level, don't do that, it's bad, with a little bit of reasoning other than because I said so. There's a reason why I said range of skin tones for ethnicity, because two people from the same region can look quite different. Not all Asians look the same, it's a massive continent with a few billion people living there. Even Japan, which is one of the most homogeneous countries, still has many different ethnic groups, all of whom look different from each other. Some, especially from the southern islands in Japan, do have darker skin tones than those from the northern islands. Of course, they're all still native Japanese, but have their own distinct traits and culture. No time for another don't do that. And that's how you depict Muslims or Muslim-inspired things in your work. Be respectful of Islamic art. There's a reason so much of it is geometric in nature and why there are no images of the prophets. Also be aware that up until the 1960s when the USA got coup happy, the Muslim world was advanced and mainly focused on knowledge in the arts and sciences. In history, it was common to see Arabs and Africans from predominantly Muslim countries in the courts of European royalty. They served as tutors for children or royal advisors. They also worked in high-ranking government positions. Many of them were merchants of some kind as well. This was because of the education these people had being very desirable to heads of state. Something I'm sure modern audiences can relate with, considering how many job listings want a minimum of a bachelor's degree. It's why you should also stay away from describing the home countries of your fantasy characters that are based off of these places as war-torn badlands. That's only within the last 60 or so years the Middle East has been like that. It's better to describe their homelands as prosperous kingdoms made rich by innovation and trade, because up until extremely recently, that's what they were. I mean, wars of succession happen all the time, so perhaps a ruler in one of these countries died childless and his two brothers started a civil war over who'd get the throne. But that's one small kingdom that's politically destabilized, not an entire region. You can also tell people that, say, having a POC in period dramas in Europe is unrealistic, just shove it. Look at the, at the time, contemporary painting View of a Times Square with the King's Fountain. It was painted in 1575 and shows many Africans mixed in with the local population, one of whom is even a knight on horseback. Speaking of black knights, Sir Morian from the Legend of King Arthur is black as well. He was all black, even as I tell ye, his head, his body, his hands were all black, saving only his teeth. His shield and his armor were even those of a Moor and black as a raven. The tales of Morian go back to the 13th century from what I can tell during research. I like to end this video with explicitly state the sexualities of your characters in the text itself. Make it clear they're gay, make it clear they're bisexual or even aromantic or trans. Don't go back years later saying you implied it in the books. If after the fact you decide it would have been more sense if Z was a lesbian, then write another book or short story in the universe where Z comes out and says it. Try not to kill your gays either. There's been a long-standing history of LGBT characters in fiction dying horrible premature deaths. I see you, Supernatural. That's why I said in the beginning of the video I'd give you brownie points for having a happily married homosexual couple grow old together because it's so rarely done. I'll be back when I get part 2 of this up.